Hey folks, in this video we're going to be discussing VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP is a really popular way to join data from two separate tables. So we're going to be demonstrating how to do VLOOKUP, deconstructing what's happening when you use VLOOKUP, and then discussing some limitations with VLOOKUP. So we're looking at the data tab, and this has values associated with countries and names. And we have a second tab in here. We could also call this our table that has more information about each of the countries in our data set. So what we're going to do is we're going to look up the abbreviation for each country using VLOOKUP. So I'm going to join the data from the lookups tab to the data tab, and then we're going to break it down a little bit slower. So I'm going to begin by typing an equal sign and then entering in VLOOKUP. I am going to be looking up the country name, which is in column A, and then I am going to be going to the lookups tab and pulling in my lookups data, and then I want to return the third column in the range, and then I'm going to enter in false and hit enter. And now I have the UK associated with the United Kingdom. And what I could do then is I can drag this box down, and that will move my formula from cell A2 to A3, or cell A4 or A3 to A4. And then what I can do here too is you see this little blue box here. If you double click on this, it'll automatically drag your formula all the way down. Cool. So now you can see that all of the data from the lookups tab is now joined into the data tab. So let's move a little bit more slowly this time and pull in the country code. So VLOOKUP stands for vertical lookup, and basically what it does is it takes 4 arguments, 3 of which are mandatory, the final one which is optional. And the way that it works is it looks for a search key in a range, and it returns a value. So the first thing that you enter in is the thing you want to search for, right? So when you're thinking about if VLOOKUP is the right function for you, you want to evaluate your data set. So we have 2 tables in this workbook. We have a data table, which we're currently looking at, and then we have a lookups table. And you'll notice that between the 2 tables, there's only one value, the country, which is consistent amongst both data sets. This means that we can use the country name in order to look up additional information. So when we're using our VLOOKUP formula, the key that we want to search for is the country name because it's consistent between the 2 tables, which means we can join on it. So I'm going to select the contents of cell A2 in order to define my search key. The second argument is the range that you want to search. So you have a shared value, in this case country, between 2 tables. You're looking it up from one instance, and then you want to return another value from another instance. So in this case, we're going to the lookups table, and we're referencing range A through D. So let's deconstruct this just a little bit before we move forward. You'll notice that I'm in the data tab here, and my VLOOKUP formula is going to be existing in cell H2, right? So it's in H2. So when I enter in A2 here, I'm referencing cell A2 in the data tab. This can also be denoted as DATA exclamation point A2. You can see that that's still referencing A2 there, but now I'm being verbose in more accurately defining it as being in the data tab, right? So when we go to the lookups tab, you'll see that we are referencing lookups exclamation point, and then we want to reference columns A through D. right? So we're looking for the country name in our data tab, and then we want to look it up against the range in our lookups table. Now that we've defined that range, we have the ability to define the index or column within our range that we want to return. So if we enter in the number 1, that will return the first column in our range. If we enter in the number 2, it will reference the second column. If we enter in the third column, we will get the abbreviation. And if we enter in the fourth column, we will get the total number of people. We want to pull in the country code, so we're going to pull in column 1, 2. The final argument, which is optional, is what's referred to as a Boolean value. Boolean. That means it is true or it is false. In the documentation, it recommends that you enter false. And you can enter in false in lowercase or in capital letters. It's not case sensitive. My experience with using VLOOKUP is only entering false. That means that you will return an exact match for your search key within your lookup range. If you enter in true, it will pull in the closest match for the search key. I have never, to my knowledge, used true when using VLOOKUP. The documentation also recommends using false. Therefore, my recommendation to you is to use false. But there could be some circumstances that I just haven't come to contact with that would make true something that you would want to use. So once I enter in false, I get my country code. I then have the ability to double click on that blue box, and then you can see we fill out the totality of our country code. VLOOKUP is great. It's one of several options that you have for matching values. However, it is limited because the second argument within your range, the second argument, which is range, requires that the first column in the range is the search key. So, for example, we have a table that has countries in it, and then we have a lookups table that also has countries in it. The country column in our data set is the first column, which means we can look up values in the totality, meaning columns A through D of the lookups table. However, if we had a table that we were attempting to pull in values using names, we would no longer be able to pull in country. So, for example, let's say that you had this list of names in here and you wanted to pull in the country. So what I'm going to do now, just to show you that Alan is in our data table, I'm going to copy. So I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to do Command C. I'm going to go to my data tab. I'm going to go Command F, and then I'm going to search this sheet using Command V, and I am seeing that Alan appears here and that the associated country is the United States. So if I wanted to use a VLOOKUP, I could try to do =, VLOOKUP, search for the name Alan in my data range, and then I want to try to pull in the first column, and I'm going to enter in false. And you'll see that I'm getting an error. And the reason that I'm getting an error is because I need to have name as the first column in the range, right? So you can see in here it says the first column in the range is searched for the key specified in search key. So because Alan is not the first value in range A through H, we cannot look up the country name. Additionally, if you enter in, so let's go back here, right? So we say that we want to look up the name in this limitations table. So I'm going to enter in a comma. I'm going to go to my data range, and you can see I'm selecting the entirety of the data range, right? I still cannot use columns A through H because my search key has to be the first column in the range. So if I do comma and I try to pull in the inventory tab, which is here, this is column D, so it's column 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I enter in false, I'm still getting that error. And the reason for that is because the VLOOKUP is referencing column A in data, right? And column A in data is country. Therefore, we cannot associate values with name because VLOOKUP is referencing column A, the first column in the range. The way that you solve that is you change column A to column B, and now you can see I'm returning a value, right? But the reason that we're not getting that inventory number is because inventory has now become the third column in the range, right? Because now column B is column number 1, column C is now column number 2, and column D is now number 3. So the challenge with VLOOKUP is that it is not as flexible as some other lookup options that you have. It doesn't mean that you can't leverage other tricks and tools and functions in order to use VLOOKUP to search the entirety of your range. It just means that if you want to use the basic VLOOKUP function, then you are going to be limited by your search key being the first column of data in the range. If you're interested in learning how to use VLOOKUP dynamically so that you can use any column in the range, I have a video that I'll be linking in the description. Additionally, if you would like to learn about some other lookups, such as index and match, XLOOKUP, I have videos about that as well, which you can find on my channel page. I hope you found this resource to be helpful. I have other videos about Google Sheets tips and tricks. I'm always interested in feedback, so please use the comment section. And I hope you'll check out some of my other stuff. Best of luck on your data journey.